There are many, many things that are revealing and stunning about today's report from Davos, the World Economic Forum, and its featured speaker, President Donald Trump. Now, the most shocking admission, it's directly related to this supremely confident declaration he made not so long ago.
Said very boldly, you could end this Ukrainian-Russia war in 24 hours.
Yeah.
How?
So I know Zelensky very well because he was very honorable with the fake phone call, impeachment hoax #1. They said I made a phone call to him, and I was very threatening. I wasn't at all. I was actually very nice. I was congratulating him on a victory. But when they asked him, they said, were you threatened? He didn't even know what they were talking about. He was very honorable. He could have done grandstand and said, yeah, I felt threatened. He didn't do that. And as you know, I get along very well with Putin. I would tell Putin, got to settle. I would tell Zelensky, you got to settle. I would tell one, you're going to load up with money. I'd tell the other, you're not going to get any money. I would get a settlement in 24 hours.
Now, Trump touched on many topics at the World Economic Forum, the way only he can, including but not limited to the war in Ukraine. That one's a doozy, and it's coming right up. Indeed, it's the reveal of his grand plan to end the war in Ukraine that'll make the shoes fly right off your feet today. So before we blast you with Trump's geopolitical disclosure of his master plan for peace, let's warm up with a look at some of the president's thoughts on things like the way major banks and financial institutions treat conservatives unfairly.
You've done a fantastic job, but I hope you start opening your bank to conservatives, because many conservatives complain that the banks are not allowing them to do business within the bank, and that included a place called Bank of America. They don't take conservative business. And I don't know if the regulators mandated that because of Biden or what, but you and Jamie and everybody, I hope you're going to open your banks to conservatives, because what you're doing is wrong.
Money conservatives are being mistreated by banks. I didn't know that. Now, before we show you his detailed geopolitical strategy, his plan to keep his promise on Ukraine, that's coming up next. But it's also worth noting that Trump also offered at Davos what could be called a geology strategy for good, clean coal.
Basis to build their plant, build the electric generating plant. They can fuel it with anything they want, and they may have coal as a backup. Good, clean coal. You know, if there were a problem with a pipe coming in, as an example, you're going with gas, oil or gas, and a pipe gets blown up or for some reason doesn't work, there are some companies in the U.S. that have coal sitting right by the plant so that if there's an emergency, they can go to that short-term basis and use our very clean coal. So that's something else that a lot of people didn't even know about. But nothing can destroy coal, not the weather, not a bomb, nothing. It might make it a little smaller, might make it a little different shape, but coal is very strong as a backup. It's a great backup to have that facility, and it wouldn't cost much more money. And we have more coal than anybody. We also have more oil and gas than anybody.
Well, we saw Donald Trump's assurance on Sean Hannity.
I would get a settlement in 24 hours.
So, with the eyes of the world upon him, let's now show you his detailed plan as proposed just earlier today at the World Economic Forum.
Mr. President, when you're back here in Davos next year, will there be then a peace agreement with Ukraine and Russia by then?
Well, you're going to have to ask Russia. Ukraine is ready to make a deal. Just so you understand, this is a war that should have never started. If I were president, it would never have started.
You're going to have to ask Russia. Well, that may well be the modus operandi for the newly elected president moving forward on all matters, great and small. But don't despair. After all...
Silly girl, remember old Pennsylvanian proverb, we have only begun to fight.
Darling, that was said by American John Paul Jones.
We invented John Paul Jones.
Oh.